Thanks for staying with us. So joining us to discuss Islamic estate planning is a private trust specialist at FBN Quest Trustees, Mutiat Olatunji. Welcome to the show, madam.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So Islamic estate planning, the Quran has a robust guideline on inheritance planning. Muslims believe that their wealth and assets are an amana from Allah, and they will be questioned about it in the life after. In that light, we'll be discussing with our guests how Muslims can properly plan their estate. So what is Islamic estate plan? Let's start with that first of all. What exactly does that mean?
Okay, so Islamic estate planning basically is a structure that you put in place. Like you had said in your intro, we believe as Muslims that wealth is an amana from Allah and will be questioned about it. So a person needs to actively think of how you want to transfer those wealth from generation to generation, and you have to put a structure in place for that whilst you are still alive.
Okay, so as a Muslim then, it's almost like you have to do it. It's something it's an obligation.
Yes, it's a mandatory obligation.
So that cuts across every Muslim, no matter your financial status? Exactly,
yes. Okay. Every person, every Muslim.
So there's certain technical details on Islamic estate that a Muslim will bother about, that I think about all the time. For instance, you know, in the Quran we have Quranic heirs. You have relatives that you just don't disown. You have dependents who you must plan for. How do you advise when a Muslim comes to put in a trust for a particular dependent, and then, you know, they have a list of other dependents that are removing? How do you deal with that issue?
Okay, so there's a difference between the al-wasiya and a trust. So al-wasiya is the will. The sharing formula for that is expressly spelled out in the Quran. But for the trust, which is called a waqf, you can have different beneficiaries of your waqf. As a matter of fact, you can have a family waqf and you can have a charitable waqf. So the charitable waqf, Muslims know that we have to perform sadaqat jariyah, and that is like a charity that outlives you. So you can put a structure in place whereby you have named beneficiaries for that charity and it outlives you.
Okay, please, can I just go back to my question? You know, I said regardless of your financial status, yes. Some Muslims might be saying, I don't have enough money to even have a plan put together. Do you have a message for someone like that? Okay,
so the truth is that no matter how little your asset or money is, you have beneficiaries that have to take over that assets. You have monies in banks. You have so many things. So the best thing to do is to ensure that you have an al-wasiya. As a matter of fact, the Prophet had said that if anybody has something to bequeath, you don't keep it to you for 2 nights without having a will in respect of it. So it is mandatory that you have something written out. And if we are to think about it, one of the reasons why this is important is that in as much as the Quran has spelled out the distribution formula, how do your beneficiaries even know what you have if you don't have it properly documented? Because what some Muslims will tell you is that, oh, I don't need to have a will because when I pass, the Quran already states how it should be distributed. But the truth is that if the people that are distributing don't even know what you have, how would they go about distributing it? Another thing is that what is the assurance that your beneficiaries or those you've left behind would actually administer this thing in line with the Quran?
So, you know, as a Muslim, because for those of us looking outside in and saying, there are 4 wives, and there are plenty children, and there are multiple, because I know I always tell my grandfather was a very, very prominent Muslim, and he had multiple wives, he had siblings, and he was able to put in a trust for years, since 1976, even to now. So how do you manage to help people with multiple families? Can you put a trust in all of them, or can you just have one person in charge of that trust?
You can have, so we at FBN Quest Trustees, that is part of what we do. When you appoint an institutional trustee, it makes it easy. So you can have all your 4 wives and your children and everybody listed as beneficiaries in your family waqf. So that way it transcends from generation to generation and everybody continues to enjoy it.
Oh, yes. This is just, it's news to me. I didn't know that it was mandatory for Muslims to actually have a will. You know, because I know many Muslims who have died, they didn't have nothing and they didn't have no will. So how are you going to be informing them that, come, it's mandatory? In fact, I even have one that works for me. That when I get to shrine now, I'm going to call him and say, Oga.
What part of the Quran? Maybe you should tell us what part of the Quran says. Chapter 4.
Yes, so it's well spelled out in chapter 4.
Quran, chapter 4. You are supposed to have, and I know he has property. You know, and I don't know Well, he only has one.
I think I know what you're talking about.
You can even also advise him to have a work, so he can reach out to us and we can set up a family work for him.
Okay.
So,
So for those of us that know what a WAF,
a work, that's a trust.
a trust, okay.
So the way a trust works is that if you have an asset and you know that this asset is income generating and you want your families to benefit from it, you can transfer that asset to the trustee and say, you know what, all the rental income from this asset, this is how I want it to be shared amongst my beneficiaries.
You know, something, I went to a conference, to an event where you were there, and there was something you said which I thought was really crucial. Because a lot of business owners today are running businesses that are thriving.
Yes.
Their children have traveled abroad. They are there, living there. They don't want to come back to Nigeria. And you're running this business that is doing so well. Unfortunately, you fall sick, you die, and then the business crumbles. What does FBN Trust have to help that kind of person to have a succession plan?
Okay, so you can also, if you have a company, for example, and you have shares, you are the majority shareholder, during your lifetime, you can transfer your shares to FBN Quest trustees as your trustee. And what we do is that then periodically you get us to sit on your board, right, so that we understand how your mind works, we understand the working of your business. So immediately the person passes, we automatically step in as majority shareholder and a member of the board to ensure that the company continues to run even whilst you are no longer alive.
My children in America, would they be getting profits from proceeds from that company?
Yes,
and would you ensure
so
that?
all of that is going to be taken care of in the trust. So your dividends, how do you want it to be paid? What percentage should be paid to your children? What percentage of the profits from the company that is accruing to you should go back to the company? What percentage should you use to build the business?
Right.
Who do you want to be the MD of the company? What are the criteria you want to put in place? So all of that to be expressly spelled out in your trust and for Muslims in your work.
Now that we're talking about proceeds, sorry, you know, there are certain things that bother Muslims again, whether the sort of business or, you know, for those who put in monies into the trust, what kind of businesses would you do that will not clash with the faith?
Okay, so we have Sharia compliance investments. So we always ensure that when we onboard our clients, especially for our work, we let them know that these are the kind of investment your money is going into. So it is purely halal. We are not mixing riba, because Muslims are always very particular about riba and, oh, I don't want interest. So we assure them that we have portfolios that
halal?
Halal is legal.
It's not illegal.
It's not illegal.
So it's not into alcohol. It's not haram. Into interest
yielding investments.
Okay. How do you want to convince me? I'm a Muslim now. You want to?
You're not a Muslim, why?
I'm just assuming.
Oh,
now.
say she's just checking for now.
For the purpose of this conversation.
Sorry, just checking.
Me.
I know.
I
was ready to fire.
African girl. Excuse me. How do you want to convince me that it's not going to enter the hands of some corrupt? My estate is not going to enter into the hands of some corrupt people, and then my children will not see any money.
Okay, so if you come to FBN Quest Trustees, we have track records. We have a lot of estates that we manage, and we have lots of beneficiaries, and we've been managing a particular big estate for over 10 years, and there has been no issue. So there's also transparency. We are accountable to the beneficiaries. We give them quarterly statements, quarterly reports, so that they can see how it is going. Even for the business, we have strategy sessions if you have a business, just so that there's transparency and you can see that we are following the dictates and the intent of the settlor.
Yeah, you know, sometimes, especially in Nigeria, where we may have one religion and then we have our culture and those things clash. So you have someone who may have a trust as this, but then there's the culture that says the firstborn has to do this, or if the person automatically becomes the person that controls the estate.
Okay.
In cases like that, it may also lead to court. What part do you play in sort of solving a situation that may be, you know, a bit confusing like this?
Okay, so for the work, which is a trust, it is private and confidential, meaning that the arrangement is just between the settlor, the trustees, and when the settlor passes, the beneficiaries. So the asset has been transferred to the trust. So the issue of who controls does not even arise, because the legal ownership of those assets has been transferred to the trustee while the settlor is still alive. So you can't even lay any claim to the property or the asset.
I can't even trace it. I can't say, let me go and look for Mariam Longe.
You can't trace it. So the beauty about it also is that when you set up a waqf and you want to acquire new assets, you acquire it directly in the name of the trust, not in your personal name. Okay. And you can give your trust any name. So you can give your trust Ijab Trust.
Okay.
And we are not under any obligation to disclose who owns Ijab Trust.
Okay.
So it is private, and you cannot even trace it back to Nima or me or anybody. So even your beneficiaries, there's a limit to what they know.
But somebody has to know, because if the owner of the trust or the person that set up dies, and nobody knows that
So there's
a
something
trust,
called
you're
a
not running with
trust
that money.
protector or a designated representative.
Who is that person? How would I
So,
find that person?
so in Islam, we call the person the wakif. So it's the wakif that nominates that person. You can nominate anybody.
Okay.
You can even nominate a corporate entity
Okay.
to inform them that, you know what, I have this arrangement. Once I pass, inform FBN Quest trustees that I have passed and ensure that they stick to the object of the trust.
Oh,
so every trust has an object.
What did you call that?
Wakif.
Wakif. That's a person.
So is it also available for Christians or just for Muslims?
So we have, estate planning generally, we have two types. So you have the conventional and you have the Islamic. So there's the conventional estate planning as well, where you can set up a trust.
Same thing,
Same.
just that the Islamic one has peculiarities.
Exactly.
Why would they come to FBN Quest trustees?
Okay, so you have to come to FBN Quest trustees because we help you plan your inheritance without hassles. We know that fights will happen. We've seen Islamic estates go to courts. People would fight. And in the long run, because you are going to be questioned about these things in the year after, you need to ensure that you've tidied up your end. So you don't want a situation whereby you pass and then your estate is being shared anyhow. And the ultimate beneficiaries that the Quran has spelled out don't even end up getting anything. And then you'll be questioned. So why not just put a plan in place to ensure that, okay, you know what, even if I drop dead today and I'm called to answer for this, I know I'm going to be fine. Because lawyers will say that there are two things that are certain in life. You will pay taxes and you will die.
Who does the Quran spell out? Who are the beneficiaries the Quran spells out?
So there are different classes of
Why
beneficiaries.
are you laughing?
So
Because we are getting some Islamic lessons today. And she's happy
Yes,
to.
please.
Go ahead.
Continue.
So there are different lines of beneficiaries. You have the first line of beneficiaries. You have your father, your mother, your spouse, your children, your siblings, even your half-siblings are entitled to inherit from you. So the sharing formula that each person now gets varies on, okay, so if you don't have a father but you have a mother, some people will get higher than they will normally get. And then typically the male gets twice, or the male sons get twice of what the daughters will get.
You know, the Quran is such a very explicit and descriptive.
I'm telling you.
Like, it
It
describes.
everything.
So all the scenarios it gives to you.
Yes.
The Bible is just very, very vague. Like, you're constantly interpreting. But it's really interesting how the Quran is very specific.
Yes.
Thank you so much for... is there anything else we've missed out that you want to share also on FBN Quest?
So, like I said before, we are here to help you plan your inheritance without hassles, be it the conventional or the Islamic point of view, anyone. But the good thing is that you should always take that first step. You should always take that first step.
I really like this
And
conversation.
you tell them that they should come to FBN.
I know somebody.
Best.
How do we reach you?
Okay, so you can reach us through our social media platform. That's at FBN Quest. You can also go to our website and just drop us a message or send an email.
Thank you.
I know, and I mean, this is such an important information because many people are, today we are entrepreneurs. Lots of people are building businesses and they just do it, they pay school fees and that's it, it's done. But this helps it to gives it longevity. Thank you so much, Mutiat, for joining us. We have to wrap up.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.